So I do not see Mr. Tuttle yet.
Welcome to the December meeting of the Winston-Salem County Utilities Commission. Happy Monday to you. Happy holidays to all. And officially, let's call the meeting to order. And if you look at the agenda, we have an esteemed guest. I don't see if David's his picture on here quite. Anyway, Mr. Saunders is going to join us, which is, let's think about this. There he is, which for those that don't know, this is like the positional grandfather to Courtney. David is Courtney's predecessor. So it's great, Dave. It's great to see your smiling face again. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. Miss Glenn, would you call us to order and call the roll, please?
I'll be glad to, and I apologize this afternoon. I'm having system issues, so you guys can't see my face. I will start the roll with our chair, Randall Tuttle.
Present.
Our vice chair, Wesley Curtis.
Present.
Commissioner Harold Day.
Present.
Commissioner Tom Griffin.
Present.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan. Commissioner Dwayne Long.
Present.
Commissioner Chris Parker.
Present.
Commissioner Charles Wilson.
Present.
Commissioner Alan Younger. Commissioner Alan Younger.
I saw him say present.
He's
Patrice?
on mute, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. Lots to go over, and Courtney's going to begin with her general update and announcements.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Tuttle. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, commission members.
Hey, Courtney, real quickly, we just note that Hugh joined, so for Patrice's purposes.
Yes, I see him.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay, thanks. I did not see him, so thank you for pointing that out. Before we get started with my announcements, I will introduce who's on the call from staff and our guests. So myself, Courtney Driver, Utilities Director, Aaron King, Assistant City Manager, Patrice Glenn, Business Office Coordinator, Mike Quivisto, Deputy Director, Jan McHarg, Assistant Director, Michael Stover, Assistant Director, Shane Chu Huffman, Capital Projects Engineer, Todd Lewis, Senior Civil Engineer, Ricky Rubio, Senior Financial Analyst, Gail Kettler, our Public Information Officer, Lisa Saunders, Chief Financial Officer, Kelly Latham, Deputy Financial Officer, Jerry Bates, Purchasing Director. I think Darren Redfield is also on the phone. He's with Purchasing. And Marilena Jensen-Guthold, Assistant City Attorney, Kirk Buerling, Real Estate Administrator, Jakira Westbrook, Office of Business Inclusion Advancement. And then our two guests today, as Chairman Tuttle mentioned, we have David Saunders, who's with HDR. He's going to give us an update, or Bill and him will give us an update on the Yakima River Basin Association. But the association has hired HDR to be their executive director. And then Bill Kreitzberger, who's an independent consultant, also does work for the Basin Association, which we will talk more about later. So there are two guests, and we're glad to have them with us today. Let me go ahead and share my screen and then we'll get going. Okay. Whoop, that's not what you need. Okay, everybody can see that? All right, so first I have a few announcements for you, then we'll go into or get an update on the Yadkin PD River Basin Association, and then we'll have our normal water, wastewater, solid waste updates, go over our agenda items, and then end with our CIP update. So first is our vaccination policy, and it was implemented or put into place in October. I think it was like October 25th. Our staff had until December 5th to turn in their proof of vaccination in order to get a $1,000 bonus. And after that, we started weekly testing of employees. So that actually started last week. Overall, the city has about a 78% vaccination rate. So 78% of our employees are vaccinated. It's a little bit higher than that in utilities. We're right around 80%. There will be an update to City Council at the General Government Committee meeting tomorrow on, the policy, the percentages, and an update and maybe a discussion on how they'll move forward. So that's going to happen tomorrow. The testing period is going to last for 4 weeks, for 4 more weeks, and then we'll probably have a I don't know if we'll continue that or if there'll be a change, but that's all to be determined. The next item is we're still struggling with vacancies. Currently, we have 65 departmental vacancies, which is the same it was last month. So we're holding steady at that level. We are working on a marketing campaign where we're doing radio advertisements, social media advertisements. We are, trying to be creative and think outside the box on how we can hire, recruit and retain employees. Aaron and I have a bi-weekly meeting with HR, other operational departments, and the manager's office to try to work through some of these issues. So we've got that going on. We are, one thing that the marketing department is doing, they're doing a campaign where they're really highlighting some success stories. So they've interviewed existing employees that started with the city, maybe at a lower level, and have worked their way up through supervision and management positions. So that's been really good, and hopefully that will be very successful to recruit some talent. A couple of personnel announcements that I wanted to share. So as we discussed earlier, Aaron King is officially our assistant city manager. He's no longer interim. And so we're excited to have him as our ACM, and I look forward to working with him in the future. And Patrice Glenn has been promoted to our business office coordinator position. She will be working on our onboarding process, hiring, recruiting, and a lot of other stuff that I'm going to need her help with. Her first, I guess, thing that she needs to focus on is hiring or replacing her current position, her senior administrative assistant position. So she'll be working on that. We also have a new engineer. His name is Jordan Toney. He's a new civil engineer. Graduated as a recent grad from UNC Charlotte. He's from the Winston-Salem area, so we've got him. He started in November with us, and we're glad to have him on board. And then the last two are people that are leaving, unfortunately. So Jerry Bates is retiring at the end of the month, and so this is his last meeting, and we will certainly miss Jerry. And then the last one is Mike Clavisto is leaving us, and he is going into the budget office. So he's not leaving the city, but leaving utilities, and we are definitely going to miss him as well. So a lot of changes going We continue to try to work on or advertise and market the financial assistance programs that are out there for our water and sewer customers that are in need. So there's LIWAP, I guess. So it stands for Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. So there's funding there. There's the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And then there's RUMA, which is the Rent Utilities Mortgage Assistance Program. So there's financial assistance available for our customers if they need it. And we're trying to make sure they are aware of those programs. And then the last announcement is no January meeting. So enjoy your break. I know we will, and staff will enjoy it. So just so you know, we will not be meeting in January. And then this is just a screenshot of our webpage back to us trying to make our customers aware of the different financial assistance programs that are out there. So if you go to on our website, you go to pay your water bill, it goes into detail, and there's some links set up for those different programs. So hopefully our customers can navigate that and figure out what's out there available to them. And before I turn it over to David and Bill, just a little bit about, as I mentioned before, David's with HDR. He used to be a City of Winston-Salem employee, but the Basin Association hired HDR to be the executive director, so to help us manage the association needs. And then the association also hired Bill Kreitzberger, who his background is he was a regulator. Then he worked for a private consulting group called CH2M Hill. And then he has retired and does kind of independent work. And the Basin Association has continued to use him to help us work on a nutrient management strategy for the rulemaking process. So they're gonna, Bill and David are gonna give us an update on that today. Last month, we heard about the Yadkin PD Water Management Group, which manages water supply and drinking water. The River Basin Association is the opposite of that. It's water quality, and so it's the wastewater side. So it's dealing with the dischargers. And this group is important for us, for the utility, because you know, the new nutrient limits that we could potentially see in our permit renewal will be very costly, could be very costly depending on what limits they set. And so obviously we want to make sure we have a seat at the table and voice our strategy and our concerns with any rulemaking that may happen. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And David, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can share.
Very good. So let me know when you're seeing a title slide.
We can see it.
Very good. Okay, well, if anybody's counting, it's been 9 years since my last Utility Commission meeting. It's good to be back. Thank you all for the opportunity to let Bill and I present on behalf of the Basin Association. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the organization itself, what it's been doing for the last few years, and how the association is trying to help facilitate better policy on behalf of its members as we move forward in managing water quality in the Yadkin River and High Rock Lake. Okay, so the map on the right kind of outlines the Yadkin River Basin. The little water drops in the map represent individual dischargers and monitoring stations within the basin network. The association itself was formed back in 1998. City of Salisbury and Winston-Salem kind of got together. They wanted to do some long-range planning and follow a model that had been used in other parts of the state, where dischargers had gotten together and formed coalitions, basically in anticipation of a TMDL. TMDL is a total maximum daily load. It's a type of nutrient management plan. And under a TMDL, which is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where we thought we were headed in the Yadkin Basin, individual members can trade nutrient allocations, usually for a fee, and work together as an organization for the betterment of the water quality in the basin. This group has 29 members. 25 of those are local governments, just like Winston-Salem. And for the better part of the last couple of decades, they've been sort of working as a monitoring coalition. I'll get into that in a little more detail in a second. But throughout the course of the history of the organization, they've actually applied for Clean Water Management Trust Fund grants to do stream restoration and other things to make the organization viable. What is a monitoring coalition? Well, essentially, under an agreement with the state, the organizations work together to monitor in-stream monitoring requirements associated with each of the dischargers' permits. Because they're working together as a unit, there's some economies and there's a reduction in the overall number of samples that have to be taken. So for most of our members, the dues for the association are actually less than what their in-stream monitoring costs would be if they didn't have the coalition to work with. So it's already saving you money right off the bat to be part of the coalition and do that. And you also get much better data in the watershed to help with the water planning aspects. Back in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, the association applied for and obtained a grant. The grant was used to collect data, water quality data in High Rock Lake and upstream. The data was collected in anticipation of a water quality model being constructed for High Rock Lake. So we've been working for and planning for new nutrient management plans and approaches for over a decade in the Yadkin Basin. In 2015, as Courtney alluded, the Basin Association went the route of an executive director. Before that, most of the decisions and most of the legwork was done by the volunteers in the association. But with the executive director, we've been able to update the organization's strategic plan, as well as start some more formal engagement in the High Rock Lake Nutrient Management Plan process. An example of that is we were able to provide a review of the detailed data sets that have been collected using that grant money. And start forming the basis of some nutrient management strategies that might be better than what could come out of a normal rulemaking process. Now, we'll talk a whole lot more about that in a minute. Another unique aspect of the Basin Association is that the Yadkin PD Water Management Group, Jonathan presented to you last month, and the Basin Association share an identical geographic boundary. What this map will show you is through the rest of North Carolina, there are lots of other dischargers associations, and there are other water management groups, but none of them shared a very similar boundary or the exact same boundary, which we believe will give not only the Utility Commission, but the other dischargers pretty good leverage going forward when engagement with regulators and elected officials is necessary. I don't expect you to take much away from this table. There's a lot of details and fine print here, but of the 13 water-related organizations in North Carolina, not counting the Riverkeeper organizations, the only two, just reinforcing the point, the only two that share the exact same membership and geographic boundaries occur in the Yadkin. So that's just important, I think, for us to leverage that and build upon that partnership as we go forward. So I said the term nutrient management plan a couple of times. Exactly what is that and where does that come from? And it starts back in probably before 2014, but in 2014, the state of North Carolina was under pressure to develop some numeric water quality standards for all water bodies in the state. EPA was threatening to take back the local delegation of enforcement that had been granted to North Carolina. North Carolina was sort of under the gun to develop some strategies and some approaches. So kind of exactly what they did do coming out of that was they came to an agreement with EPA. They laid out a plan by which they were going to develop some nutrient management planning strategy for 3 types of water bodies. There's reservoirs, there's run of the river, and there are estuaries. And each of those water bodies process nutrients differently, and they have different reactions. And we believe, as you'll hear a little bit later, that every reservoir is unique. Not every reservoir processes nutrients the same. And so you should have site-specific criteria. So High Rock Lake, being one of the reservoirs in North Carolina that wasn't under any advanced nutrient management plan, sort of became the poster child for that type of water body, hence the engagement with the Basin Association. So what the state did to move this forward is they developed 2 committees, a science advisory committee, and then a criteria implementation committee. The criteria implementation committee has not been quite as active as the SAC has. Bill sits on the CIC himself. The CIC is made up of local utility members as well as consultants and folks in the field. The SAC is more made up by academic and regulator type folks. And what they've been doing for almost a couple of years now is reviewing not only water quality standards, but also the definition and the application of the term impaired. Impaired is a powerful word in North Carolina water quality regulation. And so they've done a deep dive on that. They came up with some recommendations on what a new chlorophyll A standard would be. Chlorophyll A is not a direct indicator of water quality, but it's an indicator of activity in the water that's an indirect indicator of water quality. And so we're going to talk about that in a little more detail too. So that's sort of been the history of the plan, a lot more details than what I've given you today, but we now know that the state really is engaging in moving the nutrient management plan for High Rock Lake forward. They've hired some new staff and they've sort of generated a new schedule as recently as this past fall. Along the way, the Basin Association is state engaged. We brought Bill Kreitzberger on board and right after the 2016 announcement and started work developing not only a mission statement for the nutrient management plan, but really identified 3 deliverables that would be part of that work. The cost tool is a tool derived from Winston-Salem, Mount Airy, and Salisbury, studies that the individual cities had done to prepare themselves for what future nutrient removal requirements at their wastewater treatment plants would look like. And so Bill was able to take information, glean from that, and produce a costing tool. Data review that had been done by others as well as Bill was used to develop a nutrient management strategy. And then all that was summed up in a position paper. Position paper sort of puts everything in one place and hopefully helps us communicate with our other stakeholders and our regulators in a clear, concise fashion. And then the other work that we're always doing is staying abreast of what's going on in the SAC meetings, the CIC when they meet, and then the rest of the regulatory staff at North Carolina. So I mentioned the cost tool. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but I think, and you probably already know this, the more stringent the nutrient removal requirement, the more expensive the removal process is. And so What the cost tool did was look at the requirements for facilities to treat different nutrients for different levels. And the other thing that you can take away from this, not only is more stringent control more expensive, the good news is there is some economy of scale, and larger facilities like yours probably are a little more cost effective than small facilities in being able to make these changes. This slide is capital cost. The thing I want to point out to you is these are 2018 dollars. And I think we're all sort of painfully aware of what the last 2 years, and not to speak of the last 4 years, have done to capital construction costs. Similar information provided here for operating costs. With higher level of treatment, you're required to use more chemical. You're required to use more energy for aeration, and you probably create more biosolids. So you have more biosolids product that you have to deal with as a result of that. So costs do go up with increasing limits. Again, what our position paper did was combine those and produced a net investment required by the members of the association across the board. The dischargers would have to invest a certain amount of money in order to meet those requirements at different levels. Now, obviously, this is a broad brush. It's a planning level set of numbers. But the main takeaway here is that it's expensive to do nutrient removal. You have not historically had to treat wastewater to these levels. And when the new standards are out, you're hoping for a well thought out, cost effective way to improve your performance and support the long-term nutrient management plan for the basin. Couple more quick points about the strategy, and then I'll turn it over to Bill for a little more detail. The goal of the Basin Association, as represented in this strategy paper, is to implement an adaptive management strategy as allowed by EPA. Adaptive management strategy means that you don't have to change everything at once. You make planned, measured changes in what you're doing, look at the impact or the results on the environment, and then you make more changes if you need to. That's not the approach that's been taken historically and in other parts of the state. And in turn, lots of money have been invested for, I guess this is opinion, but for less effective impacts on water quality than what we hope to do in the Yadkin Basin. Point number 2, foster collaboration with other stakeholders. Not only are there point source dischargers like wastewater plants involved, there's non-point sources, there are municipal stormwater management systems, there's agriculture, there's NCDOT, and so there's just lots of other stakeholders that need to be engaged in this process, and we lay out a plan in order to facilitate that. We use the term phosphorus first as in our approach. Our model, the state's model, agree that phosphorus alone can have a positive impact on some of the items measured for water quality like chlorophyll A. And so phosphorus can generally be treated for less capital and less operating costs than nitrogen can. And so we're hoping that we can continue to encourage the state to follow a phosphorus first model and see if we can get measured improvement without necessarily all the investments of a nitrogen first model. And then finally, we want to continue to show a partnership with North Carolina Division of Water Resources and other stakeholders, because what we're trying to do is be the catalyst for a collaborative, cooperative approach that's based on science and it's cost effective. I'm going to turn it over to Bill, and Bill, I'll just drive for you, and let me know if you need to go forward or backward.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm Bill Kortzberger. Dave mentioned before the agreement with EPA, and they call that agreement the Nutrient Criteria Development Plan. And basically it included 3 systems, with the High Rock Lake being the reservoir system, the Central Cape Fear being the river system, and Albemarle Sound being the estuarine system. And High Rock Lake was picked because they were already at the time well on their way to having a watershed model and a nutrient response model of the lake. And those models were developed based upon land cover information from the early 2000s and water quality data from 2005 through 2009. So it's, as we've been pointing out, it's already becoming a little bit dated. The other thing about High Rock Lake is, even though it has very high chlorophyll A levels, it's well known for its healthy fishery and bass tournaments and other things. So that's sort of a interesting issue as they were looking at water quality standards. It's classified Class B, which is for swimming and frequent recreation. It also has a Class WS4. There's in the lower portion, there's an intake for the town of Denton that's immediately downstream of the lake. So part of the lake is also classified for water supply. So the Science Advisory Council really worked on chlorophyll A for High Rock Lake for almost 5 years. And they came up with a report a little over a year ago with a number of recommendations that they adopted unanimously. And that group had a wide range of academic and consultant and environmental group representatives, also a representative from EPA Region 4 on that group. So the recommendation was that they were going to implement a seasonal geometric mean of 35 micrograms per liter versus the current value that's an instantaneous criterion of 40. So although the number is lower, it's an average number over a 7-month period versus any time exceeding 40. They recommended that it not be exceeded more than once every 3 years for the months of April through October. That's the season for the geometric mean. They said it should be based on monitoring data from the open water stations, not shallow cove areas. And then they had several other recommendations. And they also recommended a framework for use for other water bodies of the state. So the Science Advisory Council did a really thorough job in their recommendation, have a very, very good report with a lot of references and a lot of information from other places. So when the state proposed rules this year, of course, the state basically took the seasonal geometric mean of 35, and they are proposing that, but they really didn't implement the other recommendations of the Science Advisory Council, of which case during the rulemaking process, which we'll talk about in the next couple slides, there's been a lot of comment on. So when DWR presented to us as major stakeholders for this rulemaking, us being the Acton PD Basin Association, last spring, this was sort of their timeline. And with the idea that they would be having a hearing sometime in October, and that the EMC would consider this in January, and it could then become final by late spring. Next slide. So actually, they were a little later than that. They have an actual public hearing was October 28th, of which many of the members participated, members of the association. The comment period ended November 15th. They're really now looking that this is going to go to the EMC in March or May. So the earliest possible effective date is July 1st, 2022. So in terms of key comments on the proposed rules, I think most people couched their comments that they were very much in favor of the recommendations of the Science Advisory Council, and that the DWR's proposed rules really were more stringent than those in their report, because they didn't include that greater than 1 in 3 frequency. The way the standard's written, it does apply to shallow areas. It really included an unnecessary narrative component to the standard. And then just other issues that the state's been going slow at this, and even as they move forward in the nutrient management planning, you know, their models are becoming dated. So like I said, we're at EMC's anticipated to act in April from the Yadkin PD Basin Association. You know, the rules are acceptable, but could be better. There's several other groups that are more concerned with sort of the precedent the state has and not really fully listening to the Science Advisory Council. So they very well may pursue legislative remedies, of which the Basin Association can consider whether we want to participate in those or not. Next, yep. So just as the rulemaking it was just to start, as Dave said, DWR has some new staff. They have somebody specifically assigned to our watershed planning process. The guy's name is Joey Hester. The advantage that I see from Joey is that he came from the Division of Soil and Water Conservation. So he really understands the ag community. Actually, 3-4 years ago, when we met with ag representatives as part of our developing that position paper, Joey participated in one of those meetings. So he's sort of known about the association for a while, but he also knows how to talk to the ag community, which is in many cases the biggest source of nutrients in the watershed. So he basically laid out this framework, which would be could lead to rules in about 3 years. I think this is sort of optimistic. My view is having been through this process, both on behalf of clients on the consulting side, as well as having done rulemaking now 30 years ago when I used to work for the state. It's probably closer to a 4 or 5 year process, but this is sort of, they have started this. They're participating at each of our meetings, and that's moving forward. So just in terms of the initial tone of the DWR discussion so far, there's been a shift, I believe. When we submitted the position paper, or what we referred to the white paper in 2019, we really didn't get a whole lot of reaction from DWR. I think they in their mind, they just weren't ready to really start to engage. But Joey is really starting with our position paper, which is really the first time we've really gotten positive feedback from them, and he has indicated that the main initial strategy will likely be phosphorus, which is what we want to hear. Of course, we said in our position paper that we didn't think we could ignore nitrogen, but that we thought different approaches for nitrogen. So I think that's an area where we'll have to continue to work with the state. He seems to be listening to comments on the proposed rules relative to nutrient management. I think his boss also is, although his boss has always been a little more hesitant to engage, to listen to some of our ideas in the past. So we need to continue to work with DWR and leverage our partnerships. I think one of the things that's been interesting in over the last 4 or 5 years is, I think we went from having an adversarial relationship with the Yadkin River Keeper, I'd say neutral to adversarial, to having a very pretty positive and collaborative relationship with them. The Riverkeeper organization actually submitted comments that in many ways were pretty well aligned with our association's comments, and that's because we've talked to them and they understand it and they participate in our meetings. So we can leverage that partnerships and others as we want to get DWR to really understand the current point source loading situation. To really, when we talk about costs, they appreciate the fact that we're looking at this from a value of cost, but I don't think they truly understand what we're saying when we talk about cost and energy considerations for nitrogen control. And we're going to need to figure out a way to educate them on that. Because nitrogen control is, I think the model shows it's less effective, and as Dave said, it is expensive, particularly for the smaller facilities. We don't think that they have the right data regarding what's happening in the watershed. Their data from USDA shows that they think that poultry levels in the watershed have stayed pretty constant. And what we're seeing, in terms of new poultry operations or the long sheds that they raise poultry in, that those are replacements, they're not new. But on the other hand, we know that Tyson in Wilkesboro has been dramatically increasing the production capacity, probably several fold over the last 20 years. And so those chickens have to be coming from somewhere. And so we think that understanding that the Riverkeeper, another nice thing about the Riverkeeper is really much more focused on poultry than they are our wastewater discharges. So that's something that we can leverage that partnership. And again, the last is understanding adaptive management and incorporated in the watershed management plan. As we've said, we think the model's dated. I think we're slowly getting that through. There's certain things that we think make sense to do right now. There's other things that might make sense if we spend a little more effort and time updating the watershed model and moving forward.
Thank you, Bill. One of the things that I should point out as we wrap up today is that Courtney has just completed her stint serving as the chair of the Basin Association. And Courtney went above and beyond the call of duty as the pandemic conditions hit and we went to virtual meetings. We decided that it just wasn't appropriate to elect new officers virtually. And so Courtney pulled an extra 20 plus months as volunteering to continue to work as the chair of the association. And she's been very involved. Her leadership has helped us accomplish a lot. So thank you, Courtney. Thank you to the board for lending Courtney to us. The other thing I would say in summary is that we try to be the kinder, gentler Basin Association in the state. Some of our friends and peer Basin associations are a little more aggressive with the regulators and regulating community. We try to basically collaborate, but stand our ground. And over the course of the last couple of years since Bill published our position paper, I think we've seen them figure out that we're not yielding. We're consistent. We like our strategy, and they're starting to see the merits of working with us as a stakeholder rather than a regulated member of their community. So all those things are positive. I'll flip it over to the last slide. I think we probably exceeded our time. Questions? Comments?
David, it's Tom. Got a question for you and Bill both. Where is North Carolina positioned if we look at the East Coast, a large regional thing, how is North Carolina positioned in this whole arena compared to some of our sister states?
Yeah. We know what we know in North Carolina, Mr. Griffin. We know that EPA Region 4 doesn't always use the same tools that other regions of EPA do. We know that we haven't got the national press in North Carolina that like the state of Florida has. But I'll kick it over to Bill to see what else he might want to add to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. North Carolina's always taken sort of a watershed by watershed approach to nutrient management. Way back, to the Chowan River stuff in the late 70s and early 80s, to the Neuse River and Falls and Jordan Lake. So they've really developed rules. EPA Region 4 doesn't necessarily give them credit for that approach because they said, well, you don't have a way to implement this stuff to prevent areas from becoming eutrophic and having nutrient issues. So that's one of the reasons why they pushed on this. South Carolina went ahead and blindly adopted nitrogen, phosphorus, and chlorophyll A standards about 10, 12 years ago, and now they're trying to figure out how to back out of it. So they've got those standards on the books, but they haven't done nearly as much implementation. Georgia's been spotty. Florida's got a pretty comprehensive approach, mainly because they were sued and they worked through it. And so it sort of varies. Of course, Chesapeake Bay is pretty far along in terms of implementing nutrient approaches. I'd say the rest of Virginia is outside of the area that contributes to Chesapeake Bay is not quite as far along. So it is, and of course, even Virginia is EPA Region 3 versus us being in 4. So they've got a different EPA region that's pushing on them, and they're very Chesapeake Bay centric up there.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Bill and David, well, quick question. I remember from years ago, if you looked at point source and non-point discharges in our basin, and the point sources being the ones that are easily regulated, but the point source or the main dischargers. And can you, off the top of your head, say what are the point source percent versus the non-point source percent of discharges into the basin?
Go ahead, Bill.
For phosphorus, I believe the point sources contribute somewhere between 25 and 30% of the estimated phosphorus load. We think that's actually probably overstating it because we think agriculture is underestimated, but that's what the data has. For nitrogen, it's more like 15%. Right. So the point sources contribute even a lower amount of nitrogen than the lower proportion of nitrogen and phosphorus.
And Dave, sort of where I'm going with this. So, but the point sources are the regulated bodies, and they're the easiest ones. So one of the reasons maybe for this basin association to exist is to make sure that discharge regulations are fairly applied to all the dischargers in the basin, not just those that are municipalities.
Yes.
Are there any other questions before we move on?
This is Wesley. I'm just glad to see that you seem to be moving in the right direction. I mean, it's good to have an advocate there at the very beginning, and so that you're taking the friendly approach versus the, I demand my right approach to kind of get what we want. And I'm just glad to see it finally some movement in the right direction.
Mr. Curtis, thank you for saying that. 18 months ago, I couldn't have given you that report. So thanks for that observation.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Thanks, gentlemen. It's been really informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both for joining us. I'll share my screen again and we'll keep going. Okay, so Mike Stover's up with the water and wastewater updates.
Thank you, Courtney, and good afternoon, commissioners. The month of November, we issued 18 water and sewer conveyances totaling $6.3 million. This next slide, you can see the breakdown between water and sewer mileage, with 4.76 miles of water conveyances this year, FY22, and 3.25 miles of sewer conveyances. Here's our rainfall data. As everybody knows, it's been a very dry year, very dry fall. You can barely even see the red rainfall amount for November, but it is there. We had 0.37 inches of rain for the entire month of November. And with that being said, almost every county in the state is under some form of drought condition, with Forsyth County being under moderate drought conditions right now. Water production for November was up over this time last year, about 1 million gallons per day. It's about a 3% increase. We produced 35.6 million gallons per day in November, which is above our 5-year average. Collection system update. We did receive the report for September. We had 1 notice of deficiency, 0 NOVs, and 0 intended force actions. And finally, some good news. You can see that November was an exceptional month for the collection system. We had 1 SSO the entire month, which is putting us in a good position to set quite another record year. We still have 6 months left before the end of the fiscal year, but we have some buffer there. And this next slide, you can see the breakdown by cause. We had 1 SSO. It was fats, oils, and grease, roots and debris related, and it's substantially below our monthly average for the month of November. And I believe my last slide is cleaning productivity. We're still working to close the gap between, our cleaning mileage and our scheduled cleaning goal of 20%. As we've mentioned for the past several months, both our in-house crews and our contractor crews experiencing staffing vacancies. So we're working through that. We've made some changes on our cleaning contracts to up production and, trying to close that gap as quickly as we can. With that being said, I believe that's all of my updates. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Right.
Mike. So Mike Quivisto is going to give us an update on our financials.
Thanks, Courtney and Mike. Good afternoon, Chairman Tuttle and Commission members. We'll start by taking a look at the water and sewer operating expenditures for FY22 through November, which are represented by the blue bar and are slightly lower than last year at this same time, which is the red bar there, and also under budget, which is represented by the light blue shaded area. Looking at the revenue side, we've started the first 5 months of the fiscal year on a good trajectory where we're heading slightly ahead of last year and also ahead of the budget. This slide shows our past due balances ticking up very slightly again in November. Courtney, if you'll go ahead and go to the next slide. This slide shows our delinquent accounts, which are also increased slightly in November. As Courtney mentioned earlier, we have partnered with Forsyth County Department of Social Services for the new low-income housing water assistance program. The county received about $650,000 to provide relief for low-income residents who have been unable to pay their water bills. The program kicked off December 1st, and we're hopeful that by the time the commission meets in February, we will have seen significant progress in this area with the implementation of that program. Any questions on those slides?
Mike, this is Wesley. Does it normally tick up around holidays?
That's a great question, Mr. Curtis. And I don't have an answer off the top of my head for what the trend looks like. I would say that it's possible and maybe likely, but I don't honestly know.
Okay.
We can look into that though. If there,
And Mike, this is that. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Mr. Younger.
I didn't want to interrupt your thought, but I did want to say with regard to that same thing, when you're researching that, I wonder if we're getting feedback about why these delinquencies are happening. Is it because of the impact of the pandemic, or is it because of something else?
Well, we can reach out to the Department of Social Services to get some feedback there too, and also the folks that have been implementing the RUMA and ERAP programs as well, just to see what they're hearing.
Perfect, thank you.
Certainly. All right, if there are no other questions, I will turn it over to Jan McCard for the solid waste update.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well today. I'll start out with an overview of all the expenses and revenues for the entirety of solid waste, all the programs and facilities. And so far this year, 5 months into the year, we're at $2.3 million in expenses. That's the blue bar on this chart, compared to about 2.9 million at the same time last year. And the budget at this point is about 4.2 million. And on the revenue side, we've taken in 5.4 million compared to about 4.8 last year. And the budget is also about 4.8. So tracking ahead of the budget and ahead of last year at this point. And looking at Haynes Mill Road landfill alone, we've taken in 122,515 tons, tracking ahead of last year, which was a little over 114,000, and above the budget of about 110,000. Looking at it on a monthly basis, in November, we were decreased a little bit at 21,301, but that's not entirely unexpected, with November and February typically being the lowest months that we see. Now, on the construction and demolition side of things, as you may recall, we closed that landfill as of November 22nd. So we're going to see decreased tonnages for the month of November. We did dip a little bit below last year. We're now at 17,033 tons, still ahead of the budget at that facility. That'll probably change with December and January, with the anticipated closure lasting through the month of January. We'll see some decreases there. And finally, I wanted to make you aware of an upcoming project. NCDOT will be widening Haynes Mill Road. The project will extend from University Parkway down past Museum Drive across from Palladium. So they'll be adding a traffic light on the west side of the overpass. There's already one on the east side, you may recall. And they'll put a traffic circle in at Museum Drive, right across from the old Haynes plant there, which is now a furniture facility. So this will impact us by the loss of right-of-way. They'll be acquiring permanent right-of-way, temporary construction easement, and taking some of the physical improvements that we have at the entrance there, including the gates and the brick and iron fencing, the sign that you see in the picture there, and then, of course, the landscaping. So we're currently negotiating the cost, the value of all those improvements, and we expect to bring you an item for approval in February regarding that. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And I think that's everything we had to present on solid waste, unless you have questions.
Jen, Harold, has anybody complained about Salisbury Road being closed down yet?
You know, I've been very surprised that I have not heard anything. Good. Now, I do expect that some customers are inconvenienced. They may just not be reaching out about it, but right. I've not heard a lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Jernigan, why don't you share the email that you received from the concerned citizen?
Yeah, got a comment. Guy was very strongly wanting me to get this to appropriate people, but yeah, he had made his first trip to the landfill. He's moving out of town, and he was taking a load of stuff to to the Haynesville landfill. And he kept saying he was shocked. When he drove in, he said, I was looking for more dirt and trash, and all I saw was really nice, well-kept, landscaped areas. Which I thought was very interesting. And he said he was very much wanting me to get this to people, but he said the people were there, the scale house people were very helpful, very friendly, and the drop-off area people really helped too. But he was just, he kept using the word shocked at the appearance of the facility and landfill, which made me feel good.
Thank you very much for sharing that. We do try very hard to have a good customer experience, especially at the front end, where the individual customers drop their waste. Yeah, that's one reason we are a little concerned about the DOT project, and I wanted you to be aware of it because I think it will be somewhat disruptive to the customer during that period. It'll improve the traffic flow, I think, when it's completed. But thank you very much for sharing that.
Well, it was very important to him for me to relate that to you, and I actually forgot it for a week, so I did get it though. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much for sharing. We do try to make sure, like as Jan said, it's a good customer experience at the landfill. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Quivisto again to go over our agenda items.
All right, thank you, Courtney. Item 2 is the one operations item, consideration of resolution authorizing execution of various agreements regarding proposed water and sanitary sewer improvements to be installed within various developments. This month, we have 5 developer agreements for a total of $220,400 for water and $294,470 for sewer. Moving to the finance items with item 3, which is consideration of a resolution requesting that the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem authorize the sale of a surplus remnant lot to the Winfield Association Inc. under the upset bid procedure, North Carolina General Statute 160A-269. On June 14th, 2021, the Commission authorized the purchase of a 0.48 acre lot at the intersection of Fry Bridge Road and Winfield Street. The lot was purchased due to an encroachment of a driveway from the adjoining dechlorination facility lot. It has now been subdivided into a 0.15 acre parcel to be retained for consolidation with the dechlorination facility lot and a 0.33 acre parcel that is no longer needed to support the adjoining facility. It is proposed that a request be made to the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem authorizing the sale of the 0.33 acre unbuildable surplus remnant lot to the Winfield Association Inc. for $500 based on the upset bid procedure. This would eliminate the need for the Winston-Forsyth County Utilities, to maintain the property in perpetuity. And at the same time, the lot would be a benefit to the Winfield Homeowners Association, and staff is supportive of the disposition of this property.
I had a quick question on this one. It says that it's unbuildable, which I assume is why it's so cheap. But just looking at the aerial, it's not immediate. Why is it unbuildable, I guess, is because it looks like you could put a house there and.
Or Courtney, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start and then Kurt can fill in any blanks. But so this this neighborhood is not served by sewer. So I imagine it's not large enough for a septic system, which would be the main reason. And Kirk, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yes, I would just say when you're looking at that lot in comparison to other lots, all of the lots in the neighborhood are about half an acre. And when they were platting that subdivision, all of that's needed for the size for the septic tanks and the drain field for the septic tanks. So even though this lot's only taken about a third of the lot, it is making it unbuildable as far as being able to build a house on it. It's just very limited utility to what it could be used for. and the HOA made the offer of $500 is what they would offer based on what they had in their budget and availability.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Item 4 is consideration of a resolution approving an increase in payment related to the utility agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for utility work due to the replacement of the Akron Drive Bridge at Liberty Street. On August 13th, 2018, the Commission adopted a resolution authorizing the execution of a utility agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for utility work related to the replacement of the Akron Drive Bridge at Liberty Street. The estimated cost to relocate the water and sewer infrastructure was $173,495. The project has been completed and the total actual cost of the utility work was $394,547.75. The higher cost is due to an increase in construction costs, as well as the addition of $46,050.75 for the relocation of a water main that was necessary to avoid unforeseen conflicts. Per the utility agreement, the Commission agreed to reimburse NCDOT the actual cost incurred during construction of the project. The project has been completed and all work items included on the NCDOT invoice have been verified by staff, and staff recommends approval of payment related to this utility work be paid to NCDOT in the total amount of $394,547.75. Item 5 is consideration of a resolution awarding a purchase order for caustic soda 50%. Caustic soda is used for pH balancing, acid neutralization, and removing heavy metal particles in the purification process for water treatment. Bids were received December 2nd, 2021 for caustic soda 50% for the Nielsen, Thomas, and Swan water treatment plants, with Ultron Solutions, Inc., the low bidder at $336,600, which represents an 82.9% increase over the prior bid in 2020. Caustic soda prices have increased due to global demand, supply chain interruptions, permanent supplier plant closings, and other impacts of the pandemic. Based on the bid price, staff anticipates an additional $152,550 in chemical costs for the period of January 2022 to December 2022, assuming similar usage patterns at the plants. Terms of the bid allow the Commission the option to extend for one additional 12-month term if both parties agree and funds are made available for that purpose, and that prices may be adjusted by an amount not to exceed the producer price index. And it's recommended that a purchase order be awarded to Ultron Solutions, Inc. for an estimated 450 dry tons of caustic soda 50% annually for the Nielsen, Swan, and Thomas water treatment plants in the estimated total annual amount of $336,600. Item 6 is consideration of a resolution approving an engineering agreement with Black & Beach International Company for engineering services associated with updating the wastewater collection system master plan. The most current wastewater collection system master plan was completed in June of 2015. Since that time, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities has made several upgrades to the collection system infrastructure, along with performing extensive sewer rehabilitation and renewal work throughout the system that were identified as part of the 2015 master plan, which includes the South Fork Basin Improvements Program. Prior to the 2015 master plan, Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities had not done a collection system master plan in over 30 years. This proposed master plan update will provide an analysis of the most current system conditions to allow Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities to best manage and plan for future system flows and capital improvements. Staff requested statements of qualifications from consulting engineers for this project, and 4 submissions were received. After reviewing the submissions, Black & Beach International Company was selected to perform the work. Staff requested a scope and fee from Black & Beach to update the master plan and negotiated a fee of $1,455,815 for these services. Staff finds this fee reasonable compared to other projects with similar scope and services and recommends approval. Item 7 is consideration of a resolution requesting MWBE goals to be set below the 10% minimum goal for the utility asphalt and concrete services contract. On June 10th, 2019, the commission approved 2 contracts with AAA Paving of Winston-Salem to perform utility pavement and concrete repairs. These repairs are necessary to restore pavement and concrete that have been removed for water and sewer utility cuts. This contract is currently in the last extension and is due to be rebid. The annual budget for the contract is $800,000. Terms of the contract would reserve the right for the commission to extend this service contract for as many as 2 additional 12-month terms if both parties agree and funds are made available for that purpose. The city's internal MWBE committee met to identify subcontracting opportunities for this contract. After reviewing the scope of work and discussing project specifications, it was determined that due to the project structure as an on-call or emergency contract, subcontracting opportunities would vary significantly depending on the need. It's also possible that a minority or woman-owned firm could self-perform the entire contract. And it is the recommendation of the city's internal MWBE committee that the MWBE participation goals be set at 0% MBE and 0% WBE.
I've got a question. Are these people performing good for us on the call when we need them?
I believe so, but I'll let Mike Stover answer that.
Yeah, I'll answer that. The current contractor is performing very well, but we're rebidding this, so we don't know who we're going to get next time.
Right, but AAA is performing good.
They're performing very well right now, yes.
Okay, that's my question.
This is my question, I guess, is that typically when we look at, I guess, the contractors that kind of can meet that goal, are those small concrete pouring, placing contractors.
Yeah.
That's usually who you're going to get to make those goals. So is there some reason why you're going to lessen the goal here for this?
Mr. Curtis, I would maybe yield to Jakira for a comment on that based on what she saw during those meetings.
Okay. Right.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chairman Tuttle and commission members. So to answer your question, Mr. Curtis, the internal MWBE committee is charged with identifying a verifiable MWBE participation goal. And because the work is on an on-call or emergency basis, the internal committee was unable to accurately identify subcontracting opportunities because the amount of work is unknown. So does that help clarify?
No. When you know, I realize the work, you don't know what the work is, but when you do know what the work is, why couldn't you, why couldn't you still have a goal of something, to try to encourage that participation? Because as I said, usually if you're trying to make a goal, that's the category that you end up using to get the goal.
Yes, Mr. Carter, we still encourage contractors to subcontract to MWBEs, but the state statute requires us to have a verifiable goal.
Okay.
And so yeah, since the work is unknown, we can't do that accurately.
Okay. All right.
One question that I'll ask, since the work is unknown and we have a little bit more time, or the contractor does, it seems that our approach would be to encourage them to use that time to recruit and train so that the goal can still be met, as opposed to just saying, let's get rid of the goal. I'm not coming at you. I know this is your job, but it seems when I served on that advisory council, it was our intent to increase the opportunities, not give contractors the ability to ignore the goal.
Correct. Mr. Younger, that's our goal too, to increase the participation. So it's not that MWBE subcontractors aren't identified. It's just we are unaware of what the quantity of work will be. And that's a part of how we set the goal. And so that's why the internal committee is recommending 0 and 0.
Okay, I'll vote against it, but I certainly understand what you're saying.
Shakira, I've got two questions, if I may. On the thread that Mr. Curtis and Mr. Younger were just talking about, if we set a goal and people don't, or contractors do not meet that goal, we can still choose to award?
So currently, yes. So you would be setting a goal that they would not have to achieve any MWBE participation.
No, but
so,
if we left the goal at 10. So if we said let's do this roughly $800,000 a year, and we would encourage 80,000 of it be spent with MWBEs, and if if the low bidder said, here's our low bid, but we can only meet a 5% goal, the city could still take that. Is that correct? They could still award.
I would have to verify with the city attorney's office, because I know that in order for us to establish a goal starting out at the basis, it would have to be verifiable. And since those quantities are unknown, that's a part of what we use to set goals in that aspect. And so I don't think we could get there, but I'll let Courtney chime in.
And so,
I think I'm trying to answer, Chairman Tonnage, I think what you're getting at is, if we have a contract that we have goals and we award it and they don't meet those goals, we still have a policy that we can award the contract to them as long as they make a good faith effort. Is that what you're
I think that's what the genesis of Mr. Curtis's question was, is why are we removing the goals now? Why don't we ask contractors to try? And then we can always say they made a good faith effort and then award if they didn't meet the goals.
And I think it goes back to what Jakira is saying, is that for this contract, with it being on call, because we don't know how many times we'll have to call a contractor out. We could call them out once a month. We could call them out 10 times a month. We can't, what she's saying, state statutes are saying we can't set goals that aren't verifiable. So there's no way to verify what those would be when we don't really know how many times they're going to come out to do concrete, how many times they're going to have to come out and do a structure adjustment or paving. I mean, those quantities aren't set, I guess, is
that's correct.
So I guess on behalf of the commission members, are you saying that this is a legal reason, even if every commission member felt opposed to the concept that the law says we have to do this because they're not quantifiable?
I'm looking for Marilyn. Is she on here? Because I don't, I'm not the attorney.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah. Actually, I just talked to Angela about this as well. And our understanding was that because of the nature of the on-call contract and needing to be able to call somebody, like that, it made it difficult to establish those goals. But Angela and I agree that if it's something that needs to be investigated further, we're happy to do that. So.
I'll leave that to commission members, whether they want to make that motion. But while I got you, Madam Attorney, and this is an easy question. What Courtney or maybe Shakira said is, let's say we had 100% M or WBE owned company. Would they still have to subcontract 10% to MWBE?
Yes.
Chairman Tuttle, that is correct.
That's sort of, that doesn't make sense to me. So if we're trying to encourage 10% performance and we have 100% performance, we're going to disqualify someone that can't subcontract to 10%?
Well, I don't think you would disqualify them. It would just be, your prime would be an M or W. But then they would also sub out and do other subs that were M or W. So I guess that would be a bonus, right?
Correct.
I would think that if we've got a prime that is an M or WBE, the spirit of this policy has been well exceeded.
Yes, me too.
Well, and I agree with that also, but it's a subcontracting policy, not a prime. It's a subcontracting policy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. But I mean, really, the goal of the subcontracting policy is to, in my opinion, is to build these subs up so they can become primes, right? I mean, that's the whole spirit of, you never get a chance to be a prime if you don't get the experience to do the work so that you can learn how to do it. And you get there and you build your forces up, and hey, next year you're a prime, you know? So, I mean, then you get penalized if you don't have the 10% of your subs that's there, you know, to somebody that may not be have anything on, but they have some subs that meet the 10%, then that person loses out because they're now prime.
And on the topic of the subcontract, how much gets subcontracted being an unknown, I don't know how long this company has been the prime for this, or for how many years we've had sort of a contract with the company that does this. If we can look back and say, you know, here's how much has been subcontracted out in previous years, that might give us a representative sample to say, okay, well, maybe there's going to be $70,000 worth of work that gets subcontracted out. Because, I mean, some of this, the prime might be able to self-perform. So maybe we don't know exactly, but if we can look back and say, here's something that'll give us a pretty good idea, and then maybe we can have a goal based on that. Even if, you know, if it's a goal and not a requirement, maybe you look back on it and use that as a way of evaluating how they did, if they make a good faith effort to hit 10% of that amount.
Yeah, and it sounds like with this item, I mean, it's out of our hands. I mean, if legally we can't do it, then I guess we can't do it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like where we are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Stover, where are we at? Is this time sensitive?
I believe we're in the last year of the contract. Jerry or Darren will have to correct me, but you know, we're gonna have something in place by, you know, June 30th or July 1st.
So if we needed to bring some more information back and have our attorneys research it a little bit more, we could hold it till February, you think?
I don't see any reason it couldn't wait till February if we need to pull this item and get some more clarification.
There you go.
And we've got enough on the current contract to get us through the end of the year, I guess. I just don't want to have a lot of street cuts that aren't addressed. you know, and then we have those issues.
Maybe these questions and concerns are just like little waves, like lapping against the wall of the statute, and there's not a lot we can do.
But I would echo Mr. Curtis's comments that if you look at M and WBE opportunities, this industry is one that usually people can make their entries. And if we had a contractor that said, yes, I know it's on call, but it's pretty basic services we were doing, and that we pledged to send out 10% of oh, here comes Jerry. All right, what did I say wrong, Jerry?
I'm keeping quiet on this. I'm retiring.
I know.
Hey, Jerry, that means you can say anything you want to.
That's right.
I'll say anything I want in January.
So I think Jerry is full on for postponing this motion at least 19 more days or so.
Well, I understand your comments. And of course, you know, one of the comments that was made, you know, we keep focusing on the word verifiable. And that's where I think as an internal committee years ago when I started, we got lost in that because we were establishing goals that were less than the city's policy of 10%. We would establish lesser than, but then just because we felt like you all feel, there's got to be something to challenge them. But at the end of the day, we couldn't verify that those trades were available. As Courtney said early on, there may or may not be structure, there may or may not be concrete work. You know, the issue with some of this is the fact that it's an on-call. And you do talk about minorities and trying to build them up, and someday they could be a prime. But I'd like for you to recognize the position we get put in. We review these every 2 weeks, these types of projects. And we do not see, regardless of all the outreach efforts that we have put forth in my time here in this job, the number of just attempts to try to get MWBEs encouraged and excited about projects like this to build their businesses up. And we get very, very little interest at the end of the day. So for us to gamble and take a chance on something that isn't verifiable. So first of all, we're violating what the statute, the program laws require. So we stopped doing that some time ago. I understand we still get we never settle, even though we may set the goals at, less than, at zero. We don't settle there. I hope you trust staff that they're continually pushing and attempting to get interest in the MWBE community. But it becomes, again, when we're setting the goals, we have to know for a fact what we're going to have. And we're sitting here today as an on-call. We could have roadway work that needs repaired, and we may not have anything near $800,000. But I like the point you're looking at historical data, and and oftentimes that's what the department is looking at when they submit a bid to the purchasing group to put it out on the street for bids. We're just looking at a mere estimate of historical data. It could or could not. The last comment I'll make is this has been again, my 12 years here, our city councils had the same heartburn about this, not understanding why an MWBE prime contractor couldn't get credit. And I just wanted to comment that they truly do. This city provides data to all council members and yourselves, I'm certain, that speaks to how much of the money's taxpayer money stays in the local community, stays with MWBE businesses. And so if a contractor was selected as an MWBE, they would get full credit in that piece of the data. But when it goes to reporting this information to Hub, and it's a subcontractor program, and we would not be able to count that to the Hub office in Raleigh. That's the only difference. We'd still score them and report it to our city council and to you as far as how much MWBE participation is provided, but that's as far as we'd be able to go.
Thank you. So, I mean, one of the second points there is this is not a city sub policy. This is a federal sub policy under which we have to operate. Okay. So may I suggest that the commission, Harold, did you have something?
Yeah, I've got a question.
I've been trying to get in here.
Go ahead. I'll yield to you.
What I was going to say was in response to what my good friend Wesley Curtis said. Even if I'm the prime, I have a responsibility to help the others to become prime, right?
Yeah.
To be engaged. And that's why the requirement is what it is, whether the prime is an MBE, a WBE or not, to help the next generation, so to speak. They're never going to become the prime if I don't have goals to help them become the prime.
Okay. Thank you. And then Harold? Muted.
Decided I didn't want to talk.
Weak internet. Sorry.
I was trying to help him, but I can't figure out how to unmute him as a host.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yes.
My question is, the whole thing is, I don't know these AAA personally, but I can't believe somebody's got over $1 million worth of equipment. We could even get them to get a bid on the whole patch in the street we cut. And this is, they don't know when they're coming, but, to roll $1 million worth of equipment to do 2 or 3 holes in the street for us is amazing if they'll even bid the job. So that's my question and answer. I mean, we're lucky to get them. So. That's what I want to say.
Well, what I was going to offer is that I'm going to ask for a consent agenda in a little bit. And if someone wants to pull it and discuss it separately, we can do that at that time. And then we can also discuss whether or not we want staff to come back in February. But I'll just ask Mike to continue on to agenda item number 8, and then we can discuss all of these together, please.
Alrighty. Thank you, Chairman Tuttle. Item 8 is consideration of a resolution requesting that the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem approve 4 long-term lease agreements between the City of Winston-Salem and Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities and Forsyth County for space on the jointly owned city-county radio towers located off Fairlawn Drive, Shallowford Road, Palmer Lane, and Salem Road. In November of 2000, the citizens of Winston-Salem approved an $11.5 million bond referendum to fund the city's share of the cost of a new joint city-county 800 megahertz public safety radio system. In June of 2002, the city and county approved an interlocal cooperation agreement that provided for the joint installation, operation, and maintenance of that system. The county's interagency communications department oversees the operation and maintenance of the system, including the radio towers. The City of Winston-Salem, along with Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities, has requested to use space on 4 radio towers for the limited purpose of installing advanced metering infrastructure system base stations. The City Council and County Commissioners previously approved a lease for the use of the Amp Drive radio tower in Clemens. The 4 towers we're talking about today are located off of Fairlawn Drive, Shallowford Road, Palmer Lane, and Salem Road. The City and Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities will enter into 4 lease agreements with Forsyth County for $5,000 per year for each location, with an annual increase in the same amount as the consumer price index during the preceding lease year. The term for these leases will be 20 years, and the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners is scheduled to approve these leases in February of 2022.
I got a question on that. Is this $5,000 a year for all the sites or all of them combined?
It's $5,000 per year per location. So for the 5 that we're doing, it would be $25,000 per year, Mr. Day.
Okay, now, does that we don't have to pay for no maintenance on the tower or nothing with that? That's just that flat all we do?
Correct.
Okay. I think that's a little high, but being the city county owns these towers and, you know, we're you know, that's still okay, but I got a problem with it overall. So anyhow.
Let me ask the staff just a question. How much do we charge folks to put stuff on the water tanks? What's the going rate?
It's Mr. Griffin. It's typically, and I think around the $3,000. I think it's $3,000 or so per month is what we get. It's significantly more than what we'll be paying.
Well, see, my question is, so the city county owns these towers, and we're part of the utilities, part of the city and county business. And I think that's a little high for us, but if we got to do it, it's okay. But I just think we ought to negotiate down some, because we're not doing this as like AT&T or Verizon on one of our water tanks. So that's my question.
And Mr. Day, we did have several meetings with staff from the city manager's office and the county manager's office, and both attorneys' offices involved in these negotiations, and the $5,000 per month for each location was where it landed.
Okay, that's my questions.
Any other questions or comments on the items? All right, if not, I will turn it back over to Chairman Tuttle.
Thank you. Courtney, if you could stop sharing the screen, please. Okay, we have 8 agenda items. I would entertain a motion to approve them all as a consent agenda and or pull any for discussion separately.
I move approval of all items.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? So there's Mr. Long, I think. That's all. Is a second. Any discussion on this motion?
in the discussion, are we too late to pull an item?
Well, then, Mr. Griffin made a motion to approve all of them. So if you want to pull an item, I guess we have to vote down that motion or ask for that motion to be changed. So if you want to pull an item and that motion's already been there, I guess we have to
Vote it down.
Vote it down and then go forward from there.
Is that what you want to do, Alan?
Yeah, I couldn't get to my mute button faster than Mr. Griffin.
Why don't I withdraw my motion then? And I'll make a substitute motion. How about that?
Okay.
That'll work.
You can make a motion to approve the agenda except for the item you would like to pull.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda except for item number 7, which we would pull and have the staff look at to see if there's any possible way that we can put language in that contract to allow us to do what we'd like to do, not in violation with whatever standards the state and the feds have.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll modify
Griffin.
my second to that. Yeah.
And we have a newly submitted motion and a newly submitted second, a newly modified, excuse me. And just to clarify that we are not pulling item 7 for a separate discussion. We are in fact approving items 1 through 6 and item 8 and therein directing staff to review item 7 for the February meeting. Mr. Griffin
Correct.
and Mr. Long, did I understand that correctly?
That's my motion, yes.
Correct.
Okay, any discussion on that newly modified motion? Mr. Griffin and Mr. Long, thanks for your modification. I think that makes perfect sense from the chair. Ms. Patrice, can you call the roll, please?
Okay. So, Mr. Vice Chair Wesley Curtis,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard Day,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines,
I saw her say yes.
yes. Commissioner Commissioner Hugh Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Parker is no longer on here.
Correct. Yeah, he chatted with me offline that he had a work issue arise.
Okay. Commissioner Charles Wilson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That motion and carries. Thank you to all for great discussion. Courtney, any questions? And Mr. Stover, any questions on the direction back to staff on item 7?
I don't think so. I think I know what you're looking for, and we'll move from there and get you more information and see what else we can do.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn it back over to you and Shane for CIP.
Okay. Let me share my screen again and then turn it over to Shane. Okay, Shane, are you ready?
I am.
Can you see it?
Sorry, I'm having internet issues. There's a little bit of a lag. I'm still seeing the towers.
Okay. Is that what everybody else is seeing? Because on my screen, it's your first slide.
Yeah, I've got the slide.
Oh,
I have the
okay.
slide, but you know,
Sorry.
I have internet issues also, so.
Yeah, our Wi-Fi here, but
Yeah.
I got it now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all having a great holiday season. First up is the R.W. Nielsen Water Treatment Plant Modernization Project. Our contractor is Ullman Schutte. This contract amount is for $107,445,000. The notice to proceed on this project was September 15 of this year and should be completed by May of 2025. Currently, Ullman Schutte is working on project submittals. They've set up their job trailers and they've moved in there. They've set up the erosion control measures, and sometime this month they will start excavating for the filter washout equalization basin.
Is it slow again? Shutting its own
Yeah,
mic.
sorry. I see a little bit. All right. So here we have an aerial picture taken with a drone of Nielsen water treatment plant currently. And to the right, you can see the job trailers. And the building to the right is Nielsen 1, 2, and the building to the left is 3, 4. And you can see the 4 clear wells in the middle, and then the lagoons, the 3 lagoons towards the left side. Yes, thank you. Oh man, sorry. All right, so Northwest or stormwater intake bank stabilization. This is one of our newer projects. Our contractor is KBS Earthworks. Notice to proceed was middle of last month, and currently they're working on procuring materials and submittals. Kernersville's sewer rehab project. Notice to proceed was August of last year and should be completed by March of next year. So far under this project, we've rehabbed about 25,000 linear feet of sewer. Guessing it's the project. There we go. Project boundary map. The yellow is what they're currently working on. Green is everything they finished, and the red is what's remaining for this project. Oh. Sorry, it hasn't changed on my screen yet.
Okay.
I could just go water main improvements.
It's the water main improvements slide.
Yes. Water main improvements. We've used about 87% of our contract time. Our contractor is Ramey, and they've completed 11 out of 19 project sites. And here you can see the project boundary map. They have completed some work. The Kernersville is where they're currently working on still. The ones in yellow is what they're currently working on. And everything in green is what's completed, and the red is what's remaining. And I'm guessing it changes system-wide 3?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. All right, system-wide sewer rehab phase 3. We've spent about $500,000 or 15% of the contract amount so far. They've completed 3 project sites, and they should be starting on High Point Road rehab work sometime this month. And here you can see the yellow star is High Point Road, is where they'll be working next. Avali Martin Mill Lowry Street lift station upgrades. So the Avali lift station upgrades will be completed. Probably it's already completed because that was 2 weeks ago. So has been completed. So once Avali is complete, the contractor will begin working on the upgrades for Lowry Street lift station. Okay, there we go. So here, the picture to the left are the bypass pumps, and the picture to the right is the new generator. So the bypass pumps were in place for about 2 weeks so that they can line the wet well. And then the new generator has been installed as well.
On North Mill Creek.
North Mill Creek. So the sewer installation is about 95% complete, and they are working on site restoration. Guessing it's the progress map.
Yep.
So they're almost done. There's 5% left of installation, and it's around the Bethania Station Road and the area between Bethania Station Road and Barrow Road and Scott Hine Park Drive. And the picture to the left is Edith Avenue Project Corridor, if you look towards the creek crossing. And the picture to the right is you're looking towards Midkiff. the site restoration work that's been done. Any questions for me? Well, thank you, everyone, and I hope everybody has a happy holidays and a happy new year.
Thank you, Shane. Yeah, so I guess to have been doing virtual meetings so long, for us to have that that's the first time we've had a little bit of a glitch that's slowed us down some, but we've been doing pretty good for, gosh, almost 2 years now. Anyway, couple of other just quick updates that I failed to mention earlier. Our diversity, equity, inclusion initiative is well underway. The commission approved a contract with Wheelhouse Global in September, and we are working with Will Lewis and his team, Dr. Lewis and his team, on some, what we're calling them, awareness conversations, not necessarily, not wanting to use the word training, but some DEI 101 awareness conversations for our management team. We're also going to have a kickoff meeting for the entire department, where we're going to have, it's going to be held via Zoom, and it'll be recorded so people can go back and watch it. And Chairman Tuttle and I spoke last week, and he's going to be available for that meeting to talk through the commission, or to let the staff know of the commission's support. And if anyone else is interested, please let me know if you want to participate. And so we've got a lot of exciting things that are going on with that initiative, and there'll be more to come. And I guess I just wanted to take the last few minutes just to, this is Jerry Bates and Mike Quivesto's last meeting with the Utility Commission. And so I wanted to just thank them for all they've done, and we certainly will miss them. So.
Thanks, Courtney.
Amen.
We'll miss everybody. So I don't want to speak for Jerry. I don't know that I'll miss Jerry, but I'll miss everybody else on this meeting. It's a great team. It's a great team.
Mike, we can come back and get you.
Yeah. I think Jerry's smile is a little wider than Mike's smile. That's
Yeah, he's going to a new job, and I'm just, well, my wife's afraid of me coming home, so I may be back before you know it. No, it's really been a great opportunity for me, and I've never regretted it. Well, okay, I regretted it the first couple of weeks, but after I got past the first couple of weeks, it's really been a great opportunity. And particularly, and I see Mike Stover, he and I have traded a couple of emails today. I've interacted with the utilities group more than any department in the city. I terribly miss them right down the hall, because I'm a go see them kind of guy rather than picking up the phone and talking with them. And I'm really going to miss the utility folks. They've all been wonderful to me and our staff. So that part I definitely will miss.
Good.
So thank you much.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Mike. I was going to mention the congratulations. Congratulations to the two of you for your new futures outside of this group. Congratulations to Patrice, but thankfully she's not going far. And we're gonna, we're talking about the person that has to follow Patrice and then get, have her sort of coach and mentor in the ear. So, and then of course, congratulations to Aaron for his permanent position as our assistant city manager. Any commission members want to add anything on the last meeting of this year? Go ahead, Alan.
Okay. Apologize for the audio problems, by the way. Patrice, congratulations. Aaron, I know you're not here, but congratulations. Mike, I really enjoyed working with you. You helped to bring me up to speed in a lot of ways, because coming into this, unlike Hugh, and we joined at the same time, I knew nothing about all this other than being willing to learn. So you helped me to learn. And Jerry, you just appeared from my screen. If you're still on, there you are. I've been working with Jerry before I was on this commission. So Jerry, I really have enjoyed getting to know you and all of the help that you provided over the years. Thank you very much.
You were at my employee orientation meeting.
That's right. We've known each other a long time. And Courtney, let me also ask, back to working with William Lewis at Wheelhouse Global, who, by the way, I'm a big fan of. What prompted some of the conversation was not only staff training on DEI, but also operationally, the type of conversation we had a few moments ago. We want to be able to address some of that. So is that still part of the plan? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks for confirming that.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other commission members? I think I wish you all the happiest of holidays. We will see each other in 2022, as hard as that is to say, and not even January. So as Courtney said, enjoy your break, and happy holidays to all.
Happy holidays.
You too. Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. Yep, for sure.
So we need a motion to adjourn, right?
Oh my golly, I was getting ready to hang up. All right, Harold.
Well, before I make a motion, I'd like for everybody to pray for my son. He's in the hospital in bad shape from the COVID. And I'd make a motion to close this meeting in a year. Thank you all.
We'll be in prayer. We'll be in prayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Thank all y'all.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Glenn.
I'm sorry, who was the second? I apologize.
Mr. Griffin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tuttle. Okay. So I'll call the roll. I'm sorry. Vice Chair Wesley Curtis.
Yes.
Commissioner Halliday.
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Griffin.
Yes.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Dwayne Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Charles Wilson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Alan Younger.
Yes.
Okay, thank you and happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays.
Harold, our best wishes.